Quick screencast here called The Economics of Empires. And this first image here is an image from a food court in Cape Town, South Africa. And what you're seeing here are all these kind of brand names, some of them that you might recognize. It's just to reinforce the idea that there are companies that are international and that economic empires still exist. They're usually not based on nations, they're based on companies called multinationals, companies that reside maybe in one country, but then have branches all over the world. Obviously, McDonald's, you can see right there, Subway, some of you will recognize others, but just gives you an idea of how interconnected the world is. As we move forward here, going back to the beginning of the economics of empires, we're looking at what was called imperialism, the domination of one country over another. These are empires, the idea that back in the day, one strong power would take over another nation or area and make it a part of that empire. The old imperialism from Europe from the 1490s to the 1600s was really about God, gold, and glory, meaning European conquerors came to Africa and other places, promoting Christianity, seizing gold, and really achieving glory for themselves and trying to enrich their home country. The new imperialism that we'll see here, the late 1600s and early 1900s, takes a different form in something called mercantilism. And we'll kind of look at what that means in a second. Mercantilism was a consequence of the Industrial Revolution. So as the economics of the home countries changed, so did their way of dominating other nations economically. In mercantilism, you're dealing with a merchant society, so a society that is focused around buying, selling, and trading. They're going to import goods, right, and they're going to export goods. The three rules of mercantilism: money equals power, wealth equals gold and silver, and you want to export more than import. Basically, meaning you want to export goods to the nations that you take over and sell things there. You want to import very few things. So you have a favorable balance of trade. You are getting people to buy your stuff, they are not buying your stuff. And you're also taking their resources. Colonization is kind of the final step. This is where countries actually take over others for a profit. They gain the raw materials and markets in the country that they take over. And they maybe claim that they'll protect the people there, but they're really conquering it. And obviously, over here, we have the East Coast of the United States. We were originally a colony of Great Britain. We were basically there to serve the home country. Mother country treats the colony as a child, meaning they have some rights, but not total rights. They have some power, but not total power. The mother country really controls that child, as Great Britain tried to control us before the Revolutionary War. It's during this time that we see the slave trade becoming profitable, and you can see this triangle here, the triangular trade. You have Europeans really coming to Africa, and you've got slaves being taken to the Americas, sugar being taken from the islands here, made into rum, and goods going back to Africa or sometimes back to Great Britain. Some of the positive effects in Africa of colonization: building infrastructure, schools and hospitals, improving agriculture sometimes, and the cultural diffusion of ideas, meaning bringing in European ideas that would help, and then also borrowing traditional African ideas that would help European culture. And here I have a picture of a European school in Nairobi in 1912. It's in Kenya. Negative effects of colonization. We'll go much more in depth in this later on. Um, that people lose their traditional ways. They're kind of forced to grow cash crops, which don't help feed the people. The European language, culture, religion, and dress become symbols of superiority. This is that ethnocentrism, which we talked about in the first unit. And the European nations created artificial boundaries where you'd have multiple tribes living in this newly created European country, and the tribes have never gotten along and never had to live together, but now they're all of a sudden a part of the same nation, and this leads to conflict. And you can see this image of tribal violence in Kenya over election results. Thank you.